Ethan stood near the staircase, holding a letter he hadn't expected to see, gripping it so tightly that the paper creased under his fingers. His heart raced, not with fear of what he had done, but with worry about what might happen if anyone else saw it. It was a letter from the past. A past that had nothing to do with mistakes in the present, but had the power to shake everything he thought was safe. Suddenly, a voice called out from the top of the stairs, sharp and anxious. "Dad, something is wrong." Liam, his 16-year-old son, came barreling down, eyes wide, moving faster than Ethan could react. "Mum is about to walk in and see everything." There was urgency in the boy's voice, the kind of fear that made Ethan's stomach tighten. He instinctively pulled the letter behind his back, trying to hide it from view. It wasn't dangerous in the usual sense, but the contents could easily be misunderstood. Liam skidded to a stop beside him, still catching his breath. "I didn't mean to see it first, Dad," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I just found it, and I didn't know what to do." Ethan glanced down at him, seeing the mixture of curiosity and panic that every parent fears in a child when something secret has been discovered. Ethan put a hand on Liam's shoulder, trying to steady both of them, though his own heart was racing. "It's okay," he said, forcing a calmness he didn't feel. "Just step back a little. Let me handle this." Outside the room, the soft click of a doorknob made them both stiffen. Emily, Ethan's wife and Liam's mother, was approaching. Her presence was warm yet commanding, always knowing more than anyone realized. Her steps were quiet but confident, and Ethan knew she would notice something was off the moment she entered. He glanced at Liam, whose eyes were wide and pleading. "She's almost here," Liam whispered. Ethan's chest tightened. He hated the idea of secrets being revealed, especially when they were harmless yet fragile. Ethan held the letter tightly behind his back. The envelope was simple, cream-colored, the kind that felt personal, almost intimate. He had recognized the handwriting immediately, a name that had once meant something important to Emily, someone from her past she had never talked about. Seeing it now, holding it, brought back a flood of memories he didn't want to face. There were no wrong actions in this, no hidden betrayals, but just knowing it existed made everything feel tense, like standing on the edge of a cliff and waiting to see if the ground would give way. Liam shifted nervously beside him. "Dad, she's right there." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling his pulse accelerate. He wished he could explain everything in a simple sentence, but there was no simple way to describe this. Not yet. He had to protect Emily from shock. At the same time, he had to be honest enough so that when she inevitably saw it, she would understand. But words didn't come easily. The doorknob turned slowly, and Ethan felt his entire body tense. Emily stepped into the room, her eyes immediately sweeping over them. There was warmth in her expression, but also curiosity, the kind that could pierce through any act or lie. "What's happening?" she asked softly, her voice carrying a note of concern. She noticed the way Ethan held the letter just behind him, and her brow furrowed slightly. She stepped closer, and Ethan felt a surge of fear, not of her anger, but of what she might think before knowing the truth. "Nothing," he said quickly, though the words sounded hollow even to his own ears. He tried to smile, a little reassuring gesture, but it didn't reach his eyes. Liam shifted uneasily, and Ethan felt the weight of both of them staring at him. "It's just..." he hesitated. Every second the letter stayed hidden made the tension worse, but revealing it too quickly could shock her. "It's complicated," he finally admitted, forcing the words out. Emily's eyes narrowed slightly, sensing the truth behind his hesitation. Complicated how? She asked gently, her hand resting lightly on the back of a chair. She didn't rush him, but there was a patience in her presence that made Ethan feel both comforted and exposed at the same time. He knew she would see right through any attempt at a casual explanation. The letter wasn't dangerous, but it carried a story, an old connection, a memory she hadn't thought about in years. Ethan swallowed hard, finally bringing the letter out slowly, as if revealing a fragile treasure. "It's from someone. From your past," he said, holding it slightly out so she could see the envelope. He didn't want to say the name yet, fearing the immediate reaction it might trigger. Emily's breath caught slightly, a subtle but unmistakable reaction. She stepped closer, her curiosity overtaking the initial warmth of her smile. Liam took a small step back, sensing the tension rising, realizing that the moment they had been dreading had arrived. His father's hand trembled slightly as he handed the envelope over. Emily's eyes softened, but there was something unspoken in them: surprise, confusion, a hint of fear. She didn't open it immediately. She just looked at it, holding it delicately between her fingers as if the paper itself were a fragile thing. The room grew quiet. Ethan felt the weight of the past pressing down on him. He had known about this letter for a short time, but seeing it in Emily's hands made the reality of the situation hit him all at once. He was filled with a mixture of dread and hope, wondering if she would see it as a harmless connection to her past or something that might change how she saw their present. Liam's small hand on his shoulder reminded him that whatever happened next, they were a family, and this moment would test the strength of that bond. Emily finally broke the silence. "Who is it from?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. Just slightly. Ethan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "It's Daniel," he said. The name seemed to hang in the air, heavy with emotion. Emily's eyes widened, and for a moment she didn't speak. Ethan could see a swirl of feelings, memories, old emotions, and questions she hadn't expected to confront. Liam watched silently, sensing the gravity of the moment, unsure if he should stay or step away. Emily finally exhaled, a long, shaky breath that seemed to release some of the tension, but left the room charged with anticipation. I didn't expect this," she whispered, glancing down at the envelope again. Ethan nodded, feeling a tight knot in his chest. "I know," he said softly. "I didn't want you to be surprised, but I also couldn't hide it forever." The moment stretched, every second filled with unspoken thoughts. Emily's eyes met Ethan's, and he could see a mixture of emotions: nostalgia, curiosity, and a shadow of something he didn't fully understand. Liam, standing beside them, felt the weight of the moment as well, realizing that this was not just a letter. It was a doorway to a story they had never faced together. Ethan took a step closer, gently placing a hand on Emily's shoulder. "Whatever. It says whatever he wants. We face it together," he said, his voice steady even though his heart raced. Emily nodded slowly, still holding the envelope, the tension in her body easing just slightly as she trusted the man beside her. Liam watched quietly, sensing that this moment was bigger than any of them had imagined. And just as Ethan thought the moment had settled, a soft knock came from the front door, startling all three of them. The sound echoed in the quiet house, and Emily's eyes widened once again. Ethan's pulse quickened. Outside, the past and present seemed poised to collide. The letter had revealed itself, the emotions had surfaced, and now someone from Emily's past might walk in at any moment. The knock echoed again, firmer this time, leaving the family frozen, hearts pounding and questions hanging in the air. Ethan glanced at Emily, who gripped the letter tightly, her knuckles white. Liam took a small step back, unsure of what was about to unfold. And in that suspended moment, The house felt smaller, the shadows longer, and the past impossibly close. Ethan whispered under his breath, more to himself than anyone else. "Here we go." And with that, the story of the letter, the past, and the family's fragile peace was about to begin. The room felt heavier now. Emily held the letter carefully, her fingers brushing the edges as if the paper itself might shatter under her touch. Ethan watched her closely, trying to read the mixture of emotions that flickered across her face: surprise, uncertainty, and something softer, almost like nostalgia. Liam lingered nearby, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. The house was quiet, except for the soft ticking of the clock on the wall, each second stretching longer than the last. Emily finally lifted her eyes, looking at Ethan. "You said this is from Daniel?" she asked, her voice barely above her whisper. Ethan nodded, keeping his expression calm even though his chest felt tight. "Yes," he said. "It came just today. I didn't open it until now." He gestured toward the envelope she still held. "I thought it was better if you saw it first." Emily's eyes softened, but she still looked unsettled. "I haven't heard from him in years," she said. Her voice wavered, and Ethan could feel the tension in the air rising. He wanted to say something to ease her mind, but words felt fragile. In this moment, he took a step closer, lowering his voice. "It's just a letter, Emily. That's all. It doesn't change anything. It's part of your past, but it doesn't touch our present." Liam shifted nervously, glancing between his parents. "Mum, are you okay?" he asked, his voice small. Emily turned to him, offering a weak smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm fine, Liam," she said softly, though her mind was racing. She felt a storm of memories flooding back, times she thought she had left behind, choices she had made, and moments of longing she had buried deep. Ethan noticed the way she clutched the letter, and realized it wasn't anger or fear she was feeling. It was reflection, pain mixed with curiosity and perhaps a hint of wonder. He had seen that expression before, years ago when she thought about the life she had imagined but never lived. "Do you want to open it?" he asked gently. Emily hesitated, her thumb hovering over the envelope's flap. She wanted to know what it said, to face it, but a small voice inside her warned of the feelings it might stir. Finally, she broke the seal and unfolded the letter carefully. The words were simple but unmistakable. "Emily, I'm back in town. I just need to talk. Daniel." Her breath caught. Ethan saw it, and he felt a jolt of protective worry. This was Daniel, the man who had once held a piece of her heart before life had pulled them apart. It wasn't love she still felt, not exactly, but it was a memory so vivid it hurt in a way words could not describe. Emily looked up at Ethan, her eyes wide. I don't know if I should respond," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. Ethan took a step closer, offering support without pushing. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to," he said gently. "This letter is from your past. It doesn't mean anything unless you choose it to." Liam's eyes were wide as he watched his mother struggle. He didn't understand everything, but he could see the emotions layered in her face. He stepped closer to Ethan and whispered, "Mum looks scared and sad. Is she going to be okay?" Ethan placed a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. "She's going to be fine, Liam," he said softly. "Sometimes people from our past reach out, and it can be confusing, but it doesn't mean anything is broken here." Emily's fingers trembled slightly as she smoothed the paper. She looked at Ethan with a mix of vulnerability and trust. "I never wanted him to hurt me again," she whispered. "But now that he's here, I feel like I have to face it." Ethan nodded, understanding the courage it took to confront old wounds. "And I'll be here," he said. "No matter what happens, we face it together." Liam watched them silently, realizing this was a moment bigger than any argument or scolding he had ever seen. His parents were facing something deep, something that involved their emotions and history. He didn't want to interrupt, but he also wanted to offer comfort. "Mum, Dad, I think you'll figure it out," he said finally, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. Emily smiled faintly at him, a glimmer of warmth returning to her expression. "Thank you, Liam," she said. Then she turned back to Ethan. I don't want to lose what we have." Ethan's eyes softened. "You won't," he said firmly. "We've built this life together. Nothing from the past can take that away unless we let it." The clock ticked on, filling the silence between them with a quiet rhythm. Emily felt the weight of her decision pressing on her. She could ignore the letter, pretend it didn't exist, but a small part of her knew that facing Daniel would bring clarity. Not closure, not necessarily resolution, but understanding. "I need to think," she said finally, her voice firming up with resolve. "I need to decide if I want to see him, or just leave it behind." Ethan nodded, respecting her need for space. "Take all the time you need," he said. "Whatever you choose, we'll deal with it together." He reached out, taking her hand gently, giving her the reassurance she needed without forcing anything. Emily's heart beat faster, feeling both gratitude and fear. She had loved Daniel once, yes, but that was a chapter she thought was closed. Now, that chapter had reopened, and she had to decide whether to read it or leave it unopened. The room felt tense but calm, the kind of quiet that holds emotions tightly in place, like a drum about to sound. Liam stepped back, giving his parents room to breathe, realizing that this was their moment, not his. He wandered over to the window, looking outside at the golden sky, trying to distract himself, but unable to stop thinking about the letter, the man who sent it, and what it might mean. Emily looked down at the envelope again, tracing the handwriting with her fingers. It was the same handwriting from years ago, familiar yet distant, stirring memories of moments that had felt alive and painful all at once. She closed her eyes, letting herself remember, but also reminding herself of the life she had chosen. Family she loved, the home she cherished, the man who stood beside her now. Ethan squeezed her hand gently, breaking her reverie. "Whatever you decide, I trust you," he said softly. "And I love you, Emily. That hasn't changed, and it won't." The words carried weight, carrying the stability and reassurance that only years of love could build. Emily opened her eyes, meeting his gaze, seeing honesty, warmth, and unwavering support. Her breath came slowly now, calmer than before, but still with the tremor of unresolved feelings. She knew this was just the beginning. The letter had opened the door, and soon she would have to decide whether to step through it or leave it closed. She felt fear, but also a strange spark of courage. She could face this. She had to face it. Not for Daniel, not for the past, but for herself, for her family, for the life she valued so deeply. Outside, the sun continued to sink, casting shadows that crept along the walls. The house felt alive with anticipation, the kind that happens when old secrets rise to the surface and demand attention. Emily took a deep breath, clutching the letter one last time before setting it gently on the coffee table. She turned to Ethan, meeting his eyes with determination. "I'll think about it tonight," she said quietly. "And tomorrow we decide what comes next." Ethan nodded, relieved that she wasn't shutting him out. "That's all I ask," he said. Liam peeked back at them, seeing the small but significant signs of reassurance. The tension in the room had eased slightly, replaced by cautious hope and trust. But outside, in the quiet street beyond the window, the world remained unpredictable, holding the potential for change, surprises, and new challenges. Emily stood slowly, feeling the weight of emotions, history, and decisions pressing lightly on her shoulders. She looked at Ethan once more, gratitude and love evident in her eyes, and then glanced at Liam, who offered a small, supportive smile. The room was still quiet, but the moment was charged with significance. This was not just about a letter. It was about facing the past, protecting the present, and preparing for the future. As the evening shadows lengthened, Emily finally spoke, her voice soft but steady. "We'll face it together," she said. Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of relief and renewed closeness. Liam exhaled quietly, understanding that this was bigger than he had imagined. And though the letter still lay on the table, unopened and full of questions, the family felt ready to face whatever came next together. But the knock at the door, faint but certain, reminded them all that the past had not finished speaking, and that soon, everything might change. The knock at the door echoed through the quiet house, sharper this time, demanding attention. Ethan felt a jolt of anticipation and a flicker of worry. Emily stood beside him, still holding the letter, her eyes wide and uncertain. Liam lingered, behind them, unsure whether to step closer or give them space. The moment was heavy with unspoken tension, the kind that seemed to press down on the walls, the furniture, even the air itself. Ethan took a deep breath and moved toward the door, trying to steady his nerves. "I'll get it," he said quietly. Emily's hand brushed his arm, a subtle gesture of reassurance. "Be careful," she whispered. Ethan's fingers trembled slightly as he turned the doorknob, revealing a familiar face standing on the porch. Daniel, the man who had written the letter. His presence was calm, almost casual, but the weight of his return made the air feel charged. Daniel smiled, a small tentative smile, and nodded toward them. "Emily," he said softly, "I didn't want to come uninvited, but I had to see you. I need to explain." Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. He had imagined this confrontation many times, but seeing it in person made it real in a way he hadn't expected. He stepped forward, blocking the doorway slightly, his presence protective but measured. "Daniel," he said carefully, "you should have sent a message first. We don't know what this could mean." Daniel's eyes flicked briefly to Ethan, then back to Emily. "I know," he admitted. "I didn't want to risk missing the chance to speak with her. I promise, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need to talk, face to face, one last time." Emily's breath caught between curiosity and fear. She had spent years burying these feelings, building a life that felt complete with Ethan. Now, Daniel's calm voice stirred emotions she thought she had left behind. Memories, she thought. "We're gone." Ethan moved aside, allowing Daniel to step onto the porch, but his gaze never left him. "One last time," Ethan repeated, his tone neutral but firm. He trusted Emily, but he also knew the power of the past to unsettle the present. Emily nodded slowly, feeling the surge of old emotions rise within her. "Yes," she whispered. "We need to talk. I need to hear you. Understand everything. Then decide what it means. For me, for my family." Daniel stepped closer, careful, respectful, sensing the tension in the room. "I never stopped thinking about you," he said quietly. "Even when life moved on, even when I saw you happy, I wondered if I had made the wrong choice leaving. I needed to know, face to face, if I hurt you, if I left anything unsaid." Emily felt her chest tighten. The words were simple, but their weight was enormous. Ethan felt it too, realizing that love and loyalty were being tested in the quietest, most intense way possible. Liam watched from the hallway, seeing the adults navigate emotions he barely understood. He felt his own heart race. This wasn't a fight, but it was heavy, full of tension, full of feelings no one wanted to hide. Emily looked at Ethan, her eyes apologetic but firm. "I need to do this," she said softly. "Not because I want him back, but because I need to close this chapter fully. I need to face him." Ethan nodded, taking her hand gently, giving silent support. Daniel took a small step closer, folding his hands in front of him, looking nervous yet composed. "I don't expect anything from you," he said. "I just want honesty. That's all." Emily took a deep breath, her mind racing through years of memories, moments of love, heartbreak, decisions she had made, and the family she had chosen. "I won't pretend this is easy," she said softly. "You were a part of my life. Yes, but that chapter is closed. I made choices, I built a life, and I loved the people in it deeply. That hasn't changed." Daniel nodded slowly, absorbing her words. "I understand," he said. "I just needed to see you, to speak truthfully. I needed closure, nothing more. I don't want to interfere with your life, your happiness. I want you to know that leaving was never easy, but it was necessary at the time." Emily felt a mix of relief and lingering sadness. It wasn't romantic anymore, not in the way it had been. It was a memory that demanded acknowledgement before it could rest. Ethan watched her, feeling pride and love swell inside him. Emily was facing a part of her past without losing sight of the life they had built together. "You're stronger than you realize," he whispered, almost to himself. Emily squeezed his hand, appreciating his presence. She realized that the strength to face Daniel came not from confrontation alone, but from the unwavering love she felt for Ethan and the life they shared. Liam stepped closer, sensing the shift in tension, wanting to understand but still needing space. Emily smiled faintly at him, grateful for his quiet support. "It's all right, Liam," she said softly. "We're okay." Liam nodded slowly, feeling relief mixed with curiosity. He had witnessed the adults confront emotions honestly, without anger or conflict, and it had taught him something important. The past could arrive unannounced, but it didn't have to destroy the present. Daniel took a step back, respectful, giving space to the family. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for hearing me, for allowing me this moment. I won't trouble you again." Emily nodded, feeling the weight lift slightly. "Goodbye, Daniel," she said softly, her voice steady now. "I hope you find peace as I am finding mine." Ethan exhaled, feeling the tension in the room ease. The storm of emotion had passed, replaced by a quiet understanding that the past could coexist with the present without overshadowing it. As Daniel walked down the porch steps, Emily felt an unexpected sense of closure. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't sudden, but it was enough. Enough to acknowledge the past, enough to reaffirm her love for Ethan, enough to allow the family to move forward without lingering doubt. She felt gratitude, relief, and even a touch of pride at her own courage. Ethan pulled her into a gentle embrace, holding her close without words. "You did the right thing," he whispered. Emily rested her head on his shoulder, feeling her heart calm, feeling the life they had built together pulse stronger than ever. Liam watched from the hallway, smiling quietly. He didn't need to understand all the nuances, but he knew that love, loyalty, and honesty had carried them through a moment that could have been unsettling. The evening sun finally disappeared behind the horizon, leaving the room bathed in soft twilight. Shadows danced along the walls, but there was warmth, stability, and a sense of peace in the home. Emily set the letter on the table, folded carefully, a symbol of closure rather than conflict. Ethan and she shared a look that said everything words could not. They had faced the past, navigated emotions honestly, and emerged stronger. Liam approached, curiosity giving way to comfort. So, it's really over? He asked quietly. Emily smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. Yes, Liam, she said softly. We're okay. Everything's okay. Ethan nodded, adding, and together, we'll handle whatever comes next. The family stood together, united, a sense of calm settling over the room. They had confronted fear, uncertainty, and unresolved feelings and had come out stronger, bound by love and trust. The night grew darker, but the house felt full of quiet strength. Outside, the world moved on, unaware of the emotional storms that had passed within these walls. Inside, Ethan, Emily, and Liam had faced a challenge, acknowledged the past, and reaffirmed their bonds. The letter that had once threatened to stir uncertainty now rested quietly on the table, no longer a symbol of tension, but of resolution. Emily finally sat down, her hand resting lightly on Ethan's. Thank you, she said softly, a small smile on her lips. Ethan kissed her forehead gently. Thank you for trusting me, he replied. Liam joined them, sitting close, feeling the warmth of family and love surrounding him. In that moment,